So, our next speaker has already been on stage this morning, if you remember. He's an expert in factory automation, robotics and image processing at the VDMA, so the Association of German Mechanical and Plant Engineering, and he's been that for over 20 years. He's headed various European trade associations, and he is, of course, the managing director of VDMA Robotics. Patrick Schwarzkopf, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So my presentation will not be only very positive information, but it will be very honest information, and so it will focus on the competitiveness of robotics and automation from Europe. And this is the #1 topic at the trade association at the moment. So we really focus a lot on this. And so I have brought some facts and figures to start with, and then some ideas and an outlook. And I'm very happy to discuss this further with all of you who are here tonight, because I'll be here as well, and look forward to good talks. So here, I have to do this, I guess. Yeah. So my presentation is called State of the Union, because we're looking at how is the current condition of the European robotics and robotics industry competitiveness. So a few charts, but not so difficult to understand, I think, quite clear. This is about units of robots, and it's about annual installation in the world. And we can see that the global share of the robots that are installed in China is 54%. So 54% of the robots, industrial robots installed last year in the world were installed in China. And 46% were installed in all other countries taken together. Yeah? So, and these figures are quite reliable because they're from the International Federation of Robotics. And you can see how this evolved. So again, I look at China, and now we're looking again at units, but we're looking at the internal domestic market in China. So what's happening in China? We see that about 10 years ago, there were only a few Chinese suppliers, and today we have a situation where 57% of the robots that were installed in China were from genuinely Chinese brands. So it does not include the global brands and their robots that they produce in China. So if we added those, it'd be more. So that's at 57%. That's the latest figure from 2024. Here we're talking about robot density. That helps us to compare regions or countries of different sizes. And it's basically a metric for the automation level, the robotization level. And the figures are how many robots are in use, industrial robots are in use in a region or in a country per 10,000 persons employed in the manufacturing industry. And here you can see Germany is pretty good. Germany is pretty good, yeah. The US also a certain increase, but China has come up really from 51 to 567 robots per 10,000. So has overtaken Germany. That's the most heavily robotized country in Europe, and I think #3 in the world. So amazing what China has done here. And now we're looking at what is the European share of annual industrial robot installations in percent? Also units here. And 10 years ago, 1 in 4 robots that were installed in the world were installed in Europe. Now it's more like 1 in 6. It's fallen tremendously. And then we have some new figures, and this is only recording robots that cross a border, yeah? Because it's from the trade statistics, the custom tariff number, which we're using. It's 2 codes for 2 types of industrial robots, and we can record how many robots cross the border because you have to pay custom tariffs and so on. These are very reliable figures. So this is in euros in sales, and it's by month. And so from 2024, the start, to mid-2025, that's July data, we can see that on average about 10 million euro worth of robots were imported from China into Europe, into the EU, to be precise. So about 10 million. And about half a year ago, we can see it started to be more like 25 million. It's not a very big number yet, but you can see how fast this changes. And these are the export shares of international trade in industrial robots. That's one customs code for industrial robots where we have the long timeline here of over 10 years. And you see Germany once had a share of about 17% of all the robots that were traded internationally that crossed the border. And it's gone down to, just below 12. And China is not very high yet, but it's getting there. Because it has been focusing on the internal market for a longer time. And now I think you have a cutthroat competition in the domestic market. It's more difficult to go into the US. So I think Europe is a great market to target. And we're seeing the beginning of this. And also, in 2024, China replaced Japan as the world's largest robot producer. So China produced more robots than any other country in the world. So if we look at this, we can see we're losing competitiveness, roughly equating the loss of market share, the loss of these figures. We have to just be honest. We're losing market share, we're losing relevance, and there must be a sense of urgency in the industry, in the government, in research. We all need to see these are the facts, and we have to face the music, which means we have to do something about it. And there's a new game, and Michael Jürgens just gave a great presentation. And by the way, he's just joined the VDMA Robotics and Automation Board. I'm super happy about that. And he is talking about physical AI, intent-based automation. And I think there is a new game. This will not replace traditional automation solutions. Like the cobot was never there to replace traditional automation lines. It opened a new chapter, an additional market, but it kind of influenced a lot the traditional market because you see a lot of cobots that are behind safety fences now because they're cheaper or whatever. Huh? And so I think this will take some time, but physical AI is a very hot topic. We have a situation where AI fuels robotics, but you could turn it around and say, aren't the robots fueling AI? Because it's okay what ChatGPT does, it's all wonderful and impressive, it creates text, video, but to create movements in the physical world, to understand the world, to have the dexterity, and to have the power to make right decisions, sensible decisions, and interacting with people, that's the masterclass. I think that is a huge goal. A new frontier for AI. And it's happening at the moment, I think, very much in the humanoid robotic sphere. And this is from the Automatica 2 or 3 years ago. And you can see this hand just turns the cube. So what's the big deal about this? The big deal about this is we don't know how these fingers will move. And you just give the fingers, the hand, this cube. And it's not determined how this hand will move the fingers and in which direction it will turn. It just has the job to turn the cube, the dice, without letting it drop. So, and it does just that. So we come from a world where we have a deterministic automation, where everything is planned, everything is controlled, and everything is meticulously programmed to a world where we have more and more non-deterministic system. And you call it intent-based automation. And same thing, it's autonomy. And this will change the world. So we have a case study. You probably know Figure AI. You saw the videos with BMW, but just to see that they were founded in 2022 in California. Series A was $70 million in May 2023. Series B in February 2024, that was less than a year later, was $675 million. And the Series C in September 2025 was about $1 billion US. And the market valuation now is close to $40 billion. So some orders of magnitude by comparison. So a couple of years ago, we had this Spark initiative in Europe, and it was, hooray, the European Union is doing the biggest, largest civilian research funding ever in the world, 700 million euros. And we were all really happy about this and said, wow, 700 million euros. And I know I'm comparing things that are not really comparable, but it still is a good exercise to do this because the Figure AI Series B financing was about the same size. And now the Series A to C was 1.75 billion all in all. And if you take the market valuation, this slide would be solid orange. So we have a problem here, I think. So China scales a lot the production of humanoid robots, but it's very clever. It also prepares its population for a thing that's coming. With a marathon, with the games, with the New Year's Eve show on TV, with the robot ballet and all these. So I think that's happening, and it's happening in a very planned way. They have a vision, they want to know where they're going. Europe is fragmented. Europe doesn't really have this plan, and it's not really decided where it wants to go. And society is very skeptical. So let's see. So takeaways. I think we need to understand this sense of urgency. If Europe continues just in this way, we will lose ground. And we have so the focus on cost effectiveness, speed, economies of scale, and a really radical customer centricity beats the focus on quality and precision. And that was our strength. And maybe it will not hold in the future as a success factor. So physical AI will transform automation. And in my opinion, Europe needs to be in the lead or in a leading position here, or it will fall behind. And it needs to overcome fragmentation. It needs some kind of master plan where it wants to go, where it wants to be in 5 years' time. That was also an outcome of our Bologna summit 2 weeks ago. And we don't have this vision, we don't have that master plan. And we need close collaboration between industry, research, and policymakers. But most of all, we need a change of mindset towards more boldness, towards innovation, risk-taking. And basically, you can't win the soccer game, the football game, if you play in defensive mode. If you want to defend what you have, you will lose. So we need to switch gears from defensive to offensive mode. And we have so much in Europe, so much knowledge, talent, and so many qualities that we have that we can use. And I think Europe has what it takes to win. But these are some figures and some ideas, and I'm looking forward to a discussion. Thank you. Only 47 seconds left.
Oh, that's perfect. Don't worry about it, even. It was very, very interesting. And what I love about it, despite all the negative news we get every day, it was positive. Because
in the end.
Exactly. In the end, you brought it back from what you've been talking about in Bologna, for example, that you have this positive mindset. And there is this saying, you can't reach the other side of the shore on the lake if you don't start swimming.
Exactly.
Just looking at it's not going to bring you any further. questions from the audience to Patrick. Pretty sure there is many. Yeah, first here, then in the end of the row on the other side, Max.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. One question that did not pop up. What about the US tariffs, which for automation and robotics, which I'm afraid could be up to 50%? Any news on this?
We have submitted a formal statement on this to the Trade Department in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, we have an office there. VDMA has an office in Washington, D.C., and so we worked intensively on that. And the arguments are pretty clear. If America wants to reshore industry, wants to revitalize its industrial manufacturing capabilities, then America needs a lot of robots. But these types of robots are not there in the US. And it would take years to build that up. And by that time, Trump's gone and the whole thing is over. So I think it's not clever to put burdens or barriers up here, even for the Trump administration. So we're in a discussion with them. We don't know. It'll take months to decide. We're alerted. But if that goes through, it will be to the detriment of the US probably more than to the detriment of the rest of the world, I think. They're harming themselves more, I think.
Mm-hmm. But time is also something what we don't really have at the moment. So this is the critical situation to figure out what's best. There was another question towards the right side at the end. There was a raised hand.
Yeah, hi.
And here's a microphone. Great presentation. Just the one thing, and I'm working for an American company, so I may be a bit biased. The thing with American companies is their biggest advantage is access to a capital market that we don't have.
Exactly.
You have oligarchs that spend $1 billion and forget about it the next moment because they have money in abundance. We don't have that. So we have to have a different strategy, right?
Yes.
What is that?
So basically, France paved the way or showed how it works. So basically, there is a lot of money. And it is with institutional investors. So the Allianz, Axas, and all these companies, Munich Re, whatever they're called now, they sit on tremendous amounts of money. And the regulation that exists in Europe makes it very difficult for them or de-incentivizes them to put just a little bit more into high-risk investment and possibly high-yield investment, because they put it into the bonds the governments give out to, to finance their debt and whatever, and gives very little interest or yield. But it's very safe, and they play it safe. So France changed this because the TB initiative, and in the first 3 or 4 years, they raised another 12 billion at least. It was a game changer for France startups. And in the second stage, I think 13 billion. And the Germans are trying to replicate this, and they called it the WIN initiative, October last year. And then the government came kind of down. So we're looking at this, if this is going to be continued. But this is really the only chance, because you can say we need more venture capital, but you can't just, talk and then it's there. So because you need to do something that makes the money flow. And there is a solution, and that is changing the regulation for institutional investors, and that needs to be done.
To me, it sounds a bit like the rabbit looking into the eyes of the snake in front of. So, but what's the recommendation in regards of overcoming regulations, talking to the government, getting that support, also getting together in an association of what Michael said. You can't do it alone anymore, but at the moment, everybody somehow is alone. Isn't there somebody who needs to take the magic wand and say, follow me, we got the idea, we're going to lead this? Are there any plans?
We probably have to be louder and clearer and less pleasant. And we need to join forces with other organizations. We've just signed a cooperation contract with Odense Robotics in Denmark, and they're very, very strong. We've signed something with AER in Spain, and that's a very, very dynamic organization now. maybe in the UK, just find a few organizations to join forces and then get people together. And I think we need to be louder and more aggressive, maybe, because they just don't hear it, they don't get it. Yeah.
They don't get it, that's it. But I got that Katharina was waving her hands here in the first row.
Thank you very much for presentation. I have a question because I used to live in Hong Kong and have been a lot in China, and I see numbers, and it's not only in robotics, right?
Yeah,
that's
sure.
very big. That's many categories that are there. Wouldn't it be better for Europe, I'm talking from Switzerland perspective, to have a focus for a particular category where we can win, because maybe to try to catch up with China in all categories can be a wrong strategy?
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a certain type of robotics that is a blue ocean more than a red ocean. And I agree, maybe you won't win the battle in a certain segment. You have to take another segment, but at least you know what you're doing. You have a plan. I think this plan is not there at the moment for Europe.
Because what I see as well, that they are changing their factories, they are changing their industrial facilities much faster, and they're building new because there is no historical heritage. Like we have here that 10 years ago they invested a couple of billions and they don't want to automate the doors again or do something that it will be more accessible for robots. So that's kind of two things, that not only robotics need to catch up, but also the industrial facilities need to catch up to be prepared by robotics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
think
see the same?
Yeah, I see it absolutely, and I think a strength that we might have with the SMEs, the SME base, the small, medium-sized companies, the technology is ready for SMEs to use a lot more automation. So as we started at Automatica to really put that topic more in the forefront to show solutions, and I think that's something where Europe can also come up with great solutions, like for wood workshops and stuff, and carpentry and welding, of course, and all these things. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. In matter of time,
Okay.
I think we deepen the conversation later on. Again, thank you, Patrick,
Okay.
for the insights, for the State of the Union, and for being 27 years with the VDMA
God.
and still loving it, as I can tell. Thank you so much.
Thank you.